The show is brought to you by our generous patrons at patreon.com/FalloutLorecast.
Robots Radio presents the Fallout Lorecast.
Welcome to the Fallout Lorecast, a place for the Fallout community to come together to explore the boundaries of our knowledge about the world of Fallout. Vault Dwellers, Wastelanders, welcome back to the Fallout Lorecast. We are here again with you on this Monday nights. It's the only thing that makes a Mondays better is this show. And so we're here. I'm your host, Tom or Robots, and my co-host, Lainey or Neos Pandora, is here with me. How's it going, Lainey?
Hello, hello. Oh, it's going great. I don't sound like I have COVID anymore, which is cool. I did not have COVID, but it's really inconvenient to sound like you're sick when there's a pandemic happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am in full agreement with that. That is not something you want to do.
Not ideal.
Well, I'm glad you're sounding better. And this week we're here live as usual Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/robotsradio with our live chat friends. Welcome to this show, everybody. Glad you guys are here. And welcome. And this week we are diving into another faction from Fallout 76. Last week we talked about the responders, and this week we're talking about the Free States. And I think the Free States get overlooked a lot. I think we hear a lot about the responders, the new responders. There are lots of different people out there in the Fallout community role playing as characters. You know, they're part of like the responders, or they're part of the Brotherhood, or whatever, right? But we don't hear a whole lot about the Free States, and I think that they're probably not getting enough credit for some of the things that they got right. Lainey, would you agree about that? And we'll get into the details in a little bit. Yeah,
for sure.
I think that they probably weren't given enough credit, especially before the war. And this is going to bring up some very interesting concepts about what it means to be in a minority of people who are correct about things that sound very extreme. And this could relate to modern current day politics stuff, but it actually doesn't, because it's not quite the same thing. So we're gonna avoid making connections there. We're just gonna talk about this situation. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Was that a cat?
Yeah, that was Sushi.
Or was that like a dying death claw? I don't know.
That was a cat.
Okay.
That's just how she talks.
That's just how she talks. So let's get into this, Lainey. What do we know about the beginning of the Free States? How did this start out? What are the Free States?
So there isn't really a proper beginning, but they did exist before the war, even, and they existed obviously before the bomb drop. They were an anarchist militia movement, basically meaning that they don't believe in having a normal hierarchy in their government, right? They want everyone to be equal, and be able to kind of make decisions for themselves and choose how they want to live their lives, right?
And that right off the bat, just to jump in here, let me just jump in real quick. Right off the bat, when you hear anarchist militia, that probably rings with a negative connotation, right?
Right.
Most of us go,
and that's
anarchist militia. That sounds terrible.
And I think that's probably why people don't gravitate towards the Free States, is because if you don't actually look at what they were about, it just sounds like they're another like chaotic force in the wasteland. Like, you don't know.
Or crazy, or like the cult of the Mothman, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, lots of people in Fallout did believe that the Free States, at least before the bomb drop, were crazy. They were considered to be extremists. So they're an anarchist militia that was united by their skepticism about the U.S. government and its ability and intention to protect its citizens during world conflict. So they, from the get-go, whenever that get-go was, because it okay. So I have a few things, right? So like the rhetoric in what I was reading implied that they existed before the war, but lots of the things about them are direct results of thoughts that one would have during a wartime when their government isn't holding up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well,
and so I'm not quite sure when, like, what the dates are or anything.
Right, right. And some of that stuff is very, very vague. But what we do know about the state of the United States before the bombs dropped was that there were continual conflicts. There were continual issues and conflicts for decades. Lack of oil, strategic movements against specific types of other external forces, whether they're political movements or militarization. And when we talk about the Great War, really, we're just talking about that moment when things came to an absolute head with China,
right,
and the bombs dropped. But before this happened, there were a number of other conflicts happening. The United States was taking over Mexico and Canada. I mean, there were lots of other conflicts. So to have a group of people around looking at the things the United States was doing and their inability to take good care of their people, and the kind of conquest empire kind of focus that they had, then it doesn't point to a specific date, but it definitely shows that there were people of this mindset, coming together and forming for some period of time before the bombs dropped.
Right. And I mean, absolutely, it would just get worse as things progress, but none of that comes out of nowhere, right? It wasn't like, oh no, one day there was a nuclear fallout and nobody saw it coming. It had to climb to reach that point.
Right, yeah. Well, yes. To be specific, a lot of people didn't see it actually coming on that moment. What's interesting about the Free States is that they were fervently predicting that things were going to come to a head and that nukes would be released. In fact, they were one of the only groups outside of, say, Vault-Tec who
and the Cult of the Mothman.
And the Cult of the Mothman. Let's say this. Let's just clarify from this perspective. They were an extra, like, outside of the government group who had correctly predicted this, which was rare. The United States government was a little bit hit on the side, but they were in conjunction with Vault-Tec. Vault-Tec was preparing these vaults. There was connection there. They were planning for worst case scenarios. Nobody specifically predicted a date. But the Free States militia was creating their own places where they could hold up in case of nuclear war. And then a month before it happened, went into hiding in preparation for it, which is kind of phenomenal. They almost hit the date right on the nose.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. But yeah, let's jump back a little bit and give, a little more context, right? This existed before all of that. Like, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right. All right. So let's go back through it.
Much more. And so let's talk about the Free States before the Wasteland, right?
Yeah. What was it like? What was it like for them?
So, just like after the bomb drop, they were in Harper's Ferry, which is a town, and
in Appalachia, right? We visited in Fall 76. Right.
You can go there, and they were very prominent in this place. It wasn't like a base per se, but lots of people were there. It's like
it was like their hub. It was the hub for where they would all gather and meet, basically.
Compare it to like Mormonism. There's like, this is a place where a lot of people are, but it doesn't mean you have to be there.
Right. Right.
So yeah. So Harper's Ferry was like the hub, though, right? That's a great explanation. But the town did not like them. It wanted nothing to do with them. The people who were part of the Free States were super strange, right? They seemed really weird because they would talk about essentially what sounded like the end times, because it was the end of America, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. And they would only pay for things in cash, and they would stock up on necessities and canned goods. It was like they were constantly preparing.
And a lot of ammo. Yeah,
and a lot of ammo. And this was really strange, but at this point it wasn't really dangerous. People weren't too concerned. Until 2077, when they started getting a little feisty and decided to start. They would pick fights with other people, particularly people who are like so like they were considered to be extremists, probably in like a very anarchist way. But of course, there are extremists of every variety, and so anyone that was particularly patriotic, they would just have like street fights with.
Right, and
which is not good.
And let's create the dividing line there. There were the free states who were considered by the majority of Americans to be anti-patriots because they were for the pulling down of the United States government for the betterment of the people. And that was their justification. Right. Everyone else considered themselves to be patriots because they were for maintaining the current system of government. Right. And these kinds of labels are very tricky because, I mean, and I'm going to avoid connecting this to modern day politics, but there's always the question of if a system fails, is it more patriotic to fight the system, or is it more patriotic to hold on to that system even if it's failing? This is one of those dilemmas, right? And usually that is defined by who wins the situation. Those are then the patriots. Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to the divide there really becomes between, are you loyal to, because like everyone's going to be like, oh, I'm loyal to my country, but does that mean you're loyal to the morals that the country was there? To
the ideology, right?
To ideology, like in the first place, or are you like, do you like the people? Like if you're, and we could get into this like forever, but it's a different mindset, right? It's they could be equally, you could be equally patriotic as someone else, but it could mean something entirely different.
Right.
But of course the free states exist out of that narrative completely because they've decided that the best thing to do is to give the power to the people 100%. So, and people thought that was crazy.
Right. And then they got called out on it and it turned into conflict on the streets.
And so this reminds me of like the Red Scare and like who was it that would basically claim that people were communists in real history, in real American
like 1950s the communist it was, and we're going through something very similar to that now, this idea that like if you label somebody a thing, then they are the enemy of the people. It's basically saying they are un-American and anti-American.
Right. And part of the problem was in our actual history, right, if this was in the 50s, right, with the Red Scare was that people were being called out as being communists when they weren't, and then really terrible things would happen to them. Right. It was a
very convenient way to label your enemies in order to get rid of them. And I have some pictures here. I'm going to put up some pictures as we talk of the free states and some of the propaganda that the United States government was using against them, because I think this is interesting.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. And that actually leads us into this is a good segue to the next part where obviously, you can't just be fighting in the streets all the time, just because you disagree on anything. Really, you can't just fight people, or you shouldn't. So the town already didn't want the free states there, and they were growing increasingly violent. And the United States military decided that they needed to put an end to it. So they released this propaganda that you just mentioned that you're showing if you guys are watching this live.
Yeah, like for example, this sign says, only a communist spy turns his back on America, and has the symbol for the free states, which is the broken chain with the star in the middle. And then some free states member scratched out the middle of it and it wrote in government lies on top of it. Yeah. So you could see that there were like this back and forth between the two.
Right. And it's not just it's very clear that this propaganda, of course it goes for in general, right? You want to rally people with your country, but it was a direct attack on the free states because they were just becoming so much of an issue, to the extent where the US military started seizing their property. If they learned that you were a member of the free states, they would go and take your things because they would claim that it was part of it was involved in seditious activity.
Right.
And so they would just take your stuff, and it escalated to a point where eventually a leader of the movement was arrested, and the free states decided that it had gone too far. Right. What was this person actually arrested for? They didn't actually do anything wrong. They were just arrested because they were a leader of a movement that the country disagreed with, right? So it was an issue, and people were heated, and the free states decided they needed a new course of action. So they secede from the United States. They decide that they are just going to become their own entity. They don't have to worry about it anymore.
Right, which is kind of interesting because they're in Appalachia. They're in the middle of West Virginia.
Right.
Which,
Yeah. It's not like
it's not like they're an island off the coast or something, like
right. Or like even if you think about if we think about America and think about how America began, right? We declared our independence, and we were on a different continent than the people we were declaring our independence from.
Right.
And so you have a lot of space there, but this is essentially the same kind of idea, right? They were unhappy with the government. They didn't like the way that they were treating people. They felt like they were being attacked personally, and they were. And they decided that they were going to get out of there, but now they're in the middle of, not in the middle, but
they're surrounded by the nation that they've now divided themselves from. Yeah. Even in the Civil War, there was the Mason-Dixon line, and if you were north of that, you were part of the North. If you're south of that, you're part of the South. Yeah, this is like you're completely encompassed by the nation that you just seceded from, which is odd.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do they go? They go underground. So they've been creating these bunkers this whole time. Where do you think all this ammo and all this food and all the other things that they were paying for with cash was going, right? All this weird stuff that people thought, they're like, oh, those weird free states, they're just stockpiling goods for no reason. They were in these bunkers. They were prepared for the worst. Mm-hmm. And so they just move into them.
Crystal in chat says that's the definition of an enclave. I guess you could say that is a definition of that. Sure. Yep. Part of a nation's completely surrounded by enemy territory. Yeah. Yeah. Go on.
So they secede, they move underground, and they stay there for about 2 years, a little over a year, because they go in 77, right? That year's a big year.
Yeah, 77 is when the bombs drop. So
everything got crazy.
Actually, they go under. I believe they go underground in September, which is the month before the bombs drop. So it wasn't even. Yeah. It wasn't even most of a year. It was actually very, very, very close in time.
So they were there conveniently at a good time, but they stayed in there until 2079. They didn't leave yet.
Right. So they didn't leave right after the bombs dropped. I see. I get what you're saying there. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, but 2077 wasn't just a big year from the bomb drop. It was also all of these things, all the crazy things with the government and the seceding and the arrests and the seizure of land all happened that year. Like it really hit a point, Mm-hmm. And so 2 years pass, the bombs have fallen, things are looking rough, but they decided it's time to go back out there. And because of their call to succeed, not the right word, to secede.
Yeah.
They succeeded. So they leave, and of course they're still near familiar areas, and they go back to Harper's Ferry, where there are survivors, and they take a lot of them in. And it's kind of funny because a lot of the people who survived knew who the free states were and would have been people in the past that thought they were crazy.
Yeah, the same people who they may have been fighting in the streets were now depending on them for their own survival. And I think that this is probably a good place to pause for us to kind of hold off on the rest of this for the second half of the episode, because let's just put this where it is before we move on to the middle of the middle and then the end of the episode. You again, and I do this on a lot of the shows, put yourself in the shoes of either one of these sides. Imagine you're part of the free states and you have spent years telling people, warning them about what the government is doing, that they're not trustworthy. And they were right. The government was not trustworthy. Look at what Vault-Tec was doing. That war was going to happen, and they were right. War was going to happen, that they need to start stockpiling food and ammo and those kinds of things and go underground in order to protect themselves. And they were right about this. And they got fought back against by the US government. They got ridiculed by their neighbors. They got called out in the street, and they eventually had to go underground in order to follow through with the things that they knew were going to happen, or at least believed were going to happen and were correct about. And here they are a few years later, coming back up to the surface, coming back to the community that ostracized them, and finding the same people who ostracized them in need. And yet they were willing to help out.
Yeah, they just took them in.
I think
there was no conflict there.
I think that this really goes to show the character of some of these people, that they were not fighting against the government for vindictive reasons or for power. It really shows that the focus of the group was actually the survival and the well-being of the people in the community. And I think that's the proof, is that when they come back out and everything is blown to hell and everybody's suffering, they then help and take in people outside of their group, even when they were ostracized by them already. And I think that's phenomenal. And I want you to kind of stew on that as we get to the middle of the episode, middle of the show, because it's an interesting dynamic. It takes a lot of honor. It takes a lot of personal, I don't know, gumption. I don't know what the word is, but to not hit back on these people when they're down, and to instead offer a helping hand, even if they might get that hand bit, because those people are still bitter. So think about that. Let's move into the middle of the show, and then we'll be back with the rest of what happens to the Free States.
Hello there, old chap. Good to see another of General Atomic's finest, still eager to serve.
Welcome to the middle of the show. We're in the part of the show where we thank our patrons for being awesome, because they genuinely and truly are. This is also part of the show where I will call out our tier 5 or higher patrons. Amelia R, Justin S, and Matt B, again, are still part of that list. Thank you to you three and everyone else. We will be doing our patron episode next week. We're only 1 week away on the 25th at this time slot. And if you would like to join us, there's a whole bunch of us. We're discussing right now in the Discord what the topic will be. We're throwing around some ideas. If you'd like to join in on that conversation, or join in on the pre-conversation about what the conversation will be about, then check out our Patreon, patreon.com/FalloutLorecast. If you'd like to just get even ad-free episodes or a permanent discount on the merch store, which I don't bring up very much, but anybody tier 2 and higher gets permanent discounts on the merch store, 10 or 20% if you're one of the higher tiers, and many other wonderful things, then go sign up on the Patreon. And we're very, very close to that $500 goal. In order to stick that, we got to stick that $500 goal and keep it for 2 months for me to officially go get my tattoo. So
you're going to get yadded.
I'm going to get yadded. What does that even mean?
Tatted.
Tattoo. Yat for tattoo.
Yadded.
Kids. I don't know. I don't speak your language. But it would be amazing if you guys can help push us up over that goal. That would be phenomenal. And then you can help me figure out what I'm going to get on my arm, like on my shoulder. So go check that out. Thank you again to all of our patrons. You guys are phenomenal. And one last thing I want to do is, I don't think I called out the people who signed up in December specifically. Let's call out Shane P. And I'm looking through the list right now. I believe it was Shane P. No, that was November. I'm on the wrong month. I'm looking at the wrong month. Okay, December. We have Anthony M. signed up, Justin S., who I mentioned already, signed up, and Matt B., who I also mentioned, signed up in December. So those were our new patrons from December. So thank you to our new patrons from December. We've got some others that have joined us in January, and you guys will get called out next month. All right, let's go back to the rest of our discussion about the Free States.
If you have any questions about Nuka World, I'd be delighted to answer them.
It's time for that spring reset. I'm taking a look at everything in my closet and figuring out that, oh no, this absolutely needs to go. And it's about time I replace things so that my clothes aren't older than my 15-year-old. Now you might think that they lasted that long because they were well made, but no, they're in terrible condition. Unlike the new jeans I just got from Quince. Jeans have always been my personal go-to because you can kind of wear them for lots of different things, but maybe they're not your thing. Maybe you're looking for, 100% European linen with insanely soft flow knit activewear fabric. It's definitely getting warmer, and their flow knit activewear is moisture wicking, anti-odor, and soft enough that you'll actually want to wear it every day. So pick out what you want. You can't go wrong because they have prices 50 to 60% less than similar brands. And like I said before, they are high quality. I continue to wear their clothes all the time, and I know that these new jeans are going to last me a lot better than the other things in my wardrobe. And on top of it, they look great. They're so comfortable, and I spent just as much on the jeans that I am now cleaning out of my wardrobe. So if you're looking for something better, just all around better, go check out Quince. So go do it right now. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to quince.com/falloutlore for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/falloutlore. So they've resurfaced. They've taken on helping their neighbors A lot of people in need. It's been a few years since the bombs dropped. People are still trying to pull their lives back together. And we have a situation where they have a secure place. They've got food, they've got resources, and the people around them need their help. So where does it go from there, Lainey?
So, well, they move in back into Harper's Ferry, and they take the people in. This is a really good spot, though, for more reasons than just the familiarity of the land and the manpower that they were able to acquire, because it was a good location for trading, which is essential. And we talked about this with the responders one, where the responders were able to pick locations to set up as their base where they could be close to the Brotherhood and the Free States and so on. And the Free States were also in a very convenient area for that. Mm-hmm. But also because they were near the Grafton Dam, and they had members that were living all through this whole area. And the Grafton Dam would help shield the town from the west, I believe, from possible raider attacks, anyone traveling through the Savage Divide in Free States territory would be relatively safe, which is really cool. So it would allow traders and anyone trying to settle within the wasteland to get through pretty much unharmed, which is really awesome. And also just goes to show the Free States, their real motives are just to help people. Like, they just want people to succeed in whatever that looks like.
Right. Survive, safety, well-being, right, those kinds of things.
So you don't have to be a part of the Free States to, or even to agree with them, to benefit from their existence in the wasteland, which is really cool. So this is a really good area, and
Harper's Ferry specifically, and that it's kind of central and works as a good trade hub connecting some of the different regions.
Right. And they're a really interesting group, especially in the way that they ended up deciding to run their whole operation, because they're different than any other faction that we see. They're not like the Brotherhood. They don't have the technology that the Brotherhood of Steel does. They don't have the actual first responder training of the responders, right? The responders are built up of people that were police officers and firefighters and from the military and so on, and have actual experience in these areas. And the Free States are just people. But they're not like raiders either. And I think that if you don't know much about them and you're just kind of encountering their things, they feel very raidery. But they're not, they're like the exact opposite of a raider, because they don't take things from people. They cultivate their own farms, and they scavenge for their own materials, and they just try to be resourceful. And they just do what they can.
more miniature Deathclaw activities in the background.
So by 2084, right? So they leave their bunker in 2079. So 5 years later, the Free States had turned into a successful trading hub, a little trading town. Harper's Ferry and the surrounding areas were available to provide aid to anyone who needed it, which is super awesome. And all was going well, and a lot of this feels a lot like what we just talked about with the responders, where things were really looking up.
And that's where it ends too, right? Things are good. It just that's where it ends. This is where we come in. Everything's fine.
What's so frustrating is that it really, and we joked about that last time too, it really could have been that good. Truly, if we just look at this, and even if this was the real world, if you were to look at this as an example of what human beings would do in these circumstances, not so much with the raiders, but with the Free States and the Brotherhood somewhat, and the responders, things look really good. This seems like somewhat of an ideal for the situation, right? They're just making the most of it. And it's so disappointing that, of course, the Enclave releases the Scorch Feasts and starts the Scorched Plague, and all of their hard work gets destroyed in days, which is, it's awful.
It's amazing how these groups started to band together and really pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, and started to build back something that could have turned into something that would last. The area was safe enough from the majority of the radiation and the bombs that had dropped on other parts in the country that they very much could have done that. You would have had these different groups and different ideologies, but they all seem to be working for the greater good, except for Eckhart and the releasing of the Scorched Plague. Because that basically ended everything.
There's no reason. What was the reason? Everyone was doing so well. It's so frustrating. So by 2086, 2 years later, Harper's Ferry is just devastated. You know, they had come so far, and I don't have any real numbers on like how many people they had at their height or like how successful they were in any way. There's no actual numbers for any of this. The actual amount of things you can dig up about the Free States is incredibly limited. Right. And I think it'd be really cool if they took more time to dive into it, because it is so interesting and honestly realistic.
Yeah.
And I think they're so interesting. But yeah, 2 years pass, Free States essentially gone. But at this point, they're still, they still struggle. They're still trying to like push forward. So they leave Harper's Ferry and they're kind of figuring out a new course of action. They don't know what to do, but they have to change something because these giant flying beasts are in the air.
The radiated bats are pooping all over the place. Yeah.
And like throwing up radiation everywhere. It's so weird. And like, what do you do? So they come up with the Scorched detection system, which is invented by Abigail Singh, is her name, and she was one of the survivors from the people left over from Harper's Ferry. And basically, the Scorched detection system, or it's also known as Operation Cooldown.
Yeah, that's a cool name. Operation Cooldown.
Yeah, it's a cool name. It was meant to allow the Free States to detect certain radiation signatures as they would pass through different areas. I do not know the technology of this, or if this is a thing that would work in real life, or with the materials they had, or any of that.
Right. Well, it's all fantasy technology, and so yeah.
Well,
okay.
Here's the thing: is that they didn't even finish it.
Right.
So who knows if it would even work, because it didn't work. It never happened. And so,
but it's an interesting idea. This concept of being able to detect the Scorched before or while they were in transit or moving from one place to another is kind of an early warning system. And had a group like the Brotherhood of Steel had this kind of technology, they may have been able to more tactically engage with the Scorched threat. You also could build defenses in underground places and ways for people to take cover if, say, a wave of scorched people, scorched beasts, scorched animals, or whatever happened to be migrating over, towards where you were living. It makes a lot of sense. It's a very smart defensive and potentially offensive system that could have given you an advantage through the information it provided.
Right, it would have been really cool. And I think that, of course, the tragedy of all of these factions is that they did not work together. They couldn't get it past their differences, if you will. But if you can think about, I know we talked about the responders, and they were developing a cure for the Scorched. They got pretty far into it. They were just a little too late, right? But had they been able to do that and also work with the Free States who could locate said Scorched, they could work together to get rid of the plague like it was nothing, right? If they have all this technology, and the Brotherhood, for example, if they came in, and I keep saying it's so frustrating, but literally all of this is so frustrating. And like the amount of time that I've dug through this lore now, and like I just have to keep seeing this over and over.
All the sad endings, all the God, they were so close.
And like what's so frustrating is we know now that the responders were allied with the Free States and the Brotherhood separately, and that they severed those ties. But imagine if they hadn't, right? Like, it's so many tiny details along the way. Had they just gone a little differently.
Right.
could have prevented so much.
Right. I mean, think about those three groups, and had they brought together and been able to work together to accomplish faster the things that they were working on. If you had a early warning system for the Scorched, you had the mobilization capacity and military might of the Brotherhood, and then also the ability to create and put together a vaccine for the Scorched Plague, then you would have no longer people in any of those three groups falling to the Scorched Plague, which means that you would much more, be in better situations to fight it back. You wouldn't have to fear it as much. You'd have the forces and the capabilities to train other people among the other groups and arm them to fight the Scorched Plague. And then you would also have the early warning system in order to know how to defend or attack the Scorched. This is like the three pieces of the puzzle could have come together right here in order to create something that would have turned the tides. But it just didn't happen due to the inability for them to work together and the timing. It genuinely, it's one of those really frustrating, and I mean, we couldn't have had a different outcome. This is the way the game is played out. It's so that when you leave the vault, right? It's so that when you leave the vault, you have these mysteries of what's happened instead of running into a bunch of groups of people who are in the midst of all of this and still dealing with it. You're seeing the ramifications of the failure to deal with it, which I think makes it a little bit more interesting, because you don't get the story unless you dig for it. Mm-hmm. And you can go through all the missions and stuff, but if you don't pay attention, you don't really get that this is what's going on. I think that there's a lot there. And I think that's what makes Fallout games in particular so interesting, is that there is this density of history and the things that came before that you're uncovering as you move forward. So that's my thoughts on it.
I think it's all super interesting. I think it's totally okay that these people are gone by the time that you get there.
Sucks for them.
I mean, it's obviously tragic, but I think that it does allow for an interesting story. It is, just to add on to the things that are unfortunate. When Vault 76 opens up and the Overseer leaves, and the Overseer spends all this time learning about the Scorched Plague and preparing to inoculate people, and just can you imagine how it would have been if 76 opened and you did go out and the Overseer was like, I've got to do these things, and discovers that people are already thriving, and that things are already being reclaimed and better, and maybe it's not exactly as the US government would have wanted it to be, but people may do, it would have been a whole other story.
There was a vaccine. The Scorched were being pushed back. There were safe places in many different communities that you could choose to live and join.
Whole communities.
Yeah. It would be a completely different situation. In fact, if there was that kind of working together, and then all of a sudden Vault 76 opened up, there would probably be a welcoming. Hey, welcome, Vault Dwellers. Welcome back to our community. What things can you bring us? We need people who can do these things. We need more farmers. We need more people who can fix things. We need more, which of you have these skills? Come join us. We're growing,
And Vault 76 was so, everyone in the vault was useful. That's the easiest way to put it. They all had something to bring to the table. That's the whole point of the vault.
Right.
So
they would have fit in. They would have found places to fit into the society for sure. Yeah. Oh man. Yep, but that's not the story we get. That's not the story we get. So instead, we get an empty wasteland where people are just now starting to return, and we all just bomb each other and create crazy clown parties and boxing rings and all sorts of, and take weird pictures on bridges. I don't know, all the craziness that we're doing in the game, which is of course also fun. So there you go. Yeah. I think just kind of one last thing to kind of top this off, because that's the end of the lore for today. Mm-hmm. We mentioned earlier that lots of people engage in the cult of the Mothman or Brother of Steel and act like they're parts of these, right? It's fun to roleplay characters and such. Yeah, and some claim to be part of the true Mothman. They only worship the true Mothman, right, as opposed to the crazies out there who don't worship the true Mothman.
The crazies. Yeah. I would be curious if any listeners to this lovely little show we do, engage in any free states oriented things because I'm sure probably there aren't very many, and the lack of lore is frustrating because there's clearly a cohesive story.
Mm-hmm.
But there just isn't. There's not a whole lot to dig into, so I could understand. There's not a whole lot to see. It's not super interesting to dive in. But if anyone is, I think that part of what's cool for having a community like this is that you can kind of fill in those gaps, and kind of figure that out for yourself. So if any of you listening do engage in free states related gameplay and would like to share your character and any of that, feel free to tag me or us.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea.
I would love to see it. That sounds so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't seen, I can't think of anybody that I know of. I can think of a number of people in the community who are doing certain kinds of other groups, but I can't think of the free states. And the free states, if we were to extrapolate this out forward from the decline in the end of the free states to, say, like last week, we talked about, I forget her name, but the woman that was forming the new responders that you come across in the game since the Wastelanders update. And this idea that somebody's following in the footsteps of these other people and going, this is a great idea.
Ellis.
Yeah, Ellis.
Yeah.
If there was to be a character doing that for the free states, I would... to think about where they would go with this, they wouldn't necessarily reform the U.S. government as such because the world is different. I think that they're the kinds of people who would be contemplating the philosophy of government and what does it mean to have freedom? What does it mean to do things that genuinely benefit the people over just the people who control, those kinds of things. Yeah, and
it's an interesting thing for sure, because if you're trying to reclaim an area, but you have anarchist values, which can be totally okay, right? Lots of people are anarchists and just want the good for everyone. In fact, you see that with the free states. But how do you create order, right? What if people don't want the best for other? Like, what does a free state member do with a raider, right?
How do you organize that? How do you create laws around it? What kind of governmental system would somebody who is part of this anarchist militia end up creating once they've now broken away from the system they were pushing against? It's an interesting question. I think it would be really, I don't know. I don't know that right now I have the answer to that question, but I would love to hear some thoughts on that. And I'm also curious what the people at Bethesda, the game designers, could potentially do with this in the future. Does this become a philosophy that creeps into the settler group that shows up or the raider group that shows up? How does this work out? I don't know. I think there's a lot that could be done with this. So it seems like a very open potential kind of thing. I
have a question. Because I really haven't played that much 76 yet. I've played some. I'm like level, I don't even know. I'm not going to try to guess. But I've been playing it a bit lately. I've actually played Nuclear Winter for the first time. This past week.
I saw you.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I saw you with my own eyes, with my eyeballs in my head. Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm very proud of your eyeballs. I'm glad I could bless them. So I've played it, but not a ton, and so I have a question for you or anyone who knows. You can obviously explore free states related things that have been left behind. Is there a way to access any of their bunkers? Or does it even imply that the bunkers are there somewhere? That would be super cool.
That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. They're not... they're only in very specific parts of the map. Maybe? Guys, if you know the answer to this question, please chime in or write us, because, off the top of my head, I'm thinking through the different areas. And maybe I want to say yes, but I'm having a hard time recalling it specifically. I could jump in the game and go find out probably. But yeah, that's a really interesting question. Maybe we'll get the answer and we can talk about it on the next show.
I think even if whether there is or there isn't, Fallout 76 is not opposed to things like mines or vaults, right?
Or hidden government facilities. There's all sorts of stuff you can come across and be like, what is this? Why is this here? Yes.
I think it would be really cool to be able to explore a Free States bunker, for it to look genuinely different from vaults and other places, right? It should be distinct. They are not associated with any of that stuff. In fact, they entirely oppose it. I would love to see that, and I would love to see
A camp built around free states. That would be cool.
Oh yeah,
because we have shelters now, right?
Take a shelter and turn it into a free states bunker.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool. I challenge someone to do that, please.
Challenge you.
And then tag me in something, and then I can explore it myself in game.
That would be very cool. All right. Well, I think that does it for this episode. Lainey, you have anything else cool going on? You've been streaming. You hit a milestone.
Streaming again. I hit 30 subscriptions. Very exciting.
Nice.
Very, very exciting. I'm like downplaying it. I do cry over it.
It makes you sad.
in a good way.
Makes you happy sad.
Happy sad. Oh, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun over there. So if anyone's interested, I've been doing lots of Fallout 76. I've been doing a lot of Nuclear Winter, so if anyone likes to play Nuclear Winter, feel free to hit me up and we can do it together. I like me a good battle royale, and it's okay, but I do enjoy it. I like Fallout, okay. So
yeah, it's the thing I find most difficult about Nuclear Winter is the density of vegetation and objects on the screen. Makes it hard for me to make out the enemy at even moderate distances. Because there's just so much going on.
Yeah. There's some areas
I find that visual acquisition in other games like that, other modes like that for other games is a lot faster. Like you play something like Apex or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds or whatever, and it's easier for me to see somebody at a distance. But the visual density in the game is very, very high. There's a lot of clutter, leaves and rocks and all sorts of things. And a lot of those things move, and the way your character runs, there's a lot of jostling and movement. So you can't just train your eye to look for something in the distance that's moving and then pick it out. I find that makes it a little bit, I'm slower at targeting because of that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I play a lot of, well, not a lot, but I also stream Apex, and I like Apex, and I can definitely say that like there is a vast difference in the way it looks for one, but also I was talking today to someone I was playing with about other battle royales and like just features they have that make things easier, like being able to ping enemies for your team, or being able to ping a location or like an item. That takes a lot of the hassle out of it. Part of it's hard too because if people aren't using voice chat, then there is no other
communication
method for communicating.
Sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I also feel like the engine is a little bit I feel like the shots, or maybe it's just internet delay. It's not as refined as some of these other games like Apex Legends. A lot of these other shooters are designed by teams that make competitive shooters, whereas this is a mode from an RPG shooter which doesn't need that same the same kind of thing going on. So I think
it's really fun. I know that they haven't really updated it in a long time, but if they did, I would love for them to add more locations. Maybe that could fix part of the problem with being able to see people, right? There are probably areas that may be more or less beneficial in that regard to fight in, right? So right now they have Morgantown and Flatwoods, and a lot of that's very hilly, and that's an issue I have with like Fallout 76 as a whole, is that you have to climb up and down so much, and it makes it really hard. It's really hard for a battle royale to have to climb that much, right? Because you're trying to like hide and run away, and like it doesn't work. I would love to have other locations, like something in like the Cranberry Bog would be nuts, or like the Ash Heap, or like you could do one in a different vault, right? So they have Vault 51 where you like wait in, but what if you did one in a vault? That would be fun. And it would get rid of the like foliage in the way issue. Like a really tight map where it's only 10 people or something. Like, enough people don't play. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, there's occasionally so few people that are playing Nuclear Winter currently that you end up in places where there's only 18 people on the whole map, which is nuts.
Yeah, it's not the most popular mode. It was very popular when it came out, but there's definitely more focus on other things. The building and the role playing and a lot of those other things. The end game grind for cool weapons and, refining your build. A lot of that stuff is more popular currently. Well, cool stuff. I might jump back into it again and try it out.
Yeah, it's fun, and it helps you level your normal character, right, in adventure mode, which is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also it's enjoyable. All of this aside, I've been having fun.
Oh, good. Well, yeah, go check out Lainey's streams. She streams regularly, Neos Pandora, and I've been doing my daily streams while I work on stuff. I did that this morning, and a bunch of our community dropped by and hung out with me for a bit, and I'll be doing that tomorrow. And like I've said before, I'd love for you guys to come hang out, twitch.tv/robotsradio, and I'll be just editing some content and just making stuff and chatting with you guys, which is super fun. So come hang out with us. We love to see you guys. And that does it for this episode. We'll be back next week with our patron episode. And then after that, we'll probably be back with more Fallout 76 stuff. Keep on doing some of those things. And until then, stay safe. Try not to get too angry at your neighbors when they ostracize you for being right, and offer them a helping hand. For whatever that's worth. I don't know. All right, guys.
Spicy outro today.
We'll see you later. To plug into everything else we're doing, check out robotsradio.net. Also, look up the Robots Radio YouTube for videos about Fallout and other things. And check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/robotsradio.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. It's good to have you guys here. Yeah, the Naked Wizard. I did some more Naked Wizard earlier today. Only got a good 30 minutes in. My son had the day off, so he wanted to play some Beat Saber VR. So I need to let him have a chance to play. But yeah, did some more Naked Wizard, blowing people up with my fire hands. It's been a lot of fun. Fire hands.
Ooh, I played D&D for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah. How'd it go?
Very exciting. So we have a big campaign coming up that I think I told you about before. Mm-hmm. But we did we're doing a little mini one. It's just me and CJ and Corey and another friend of us, very small. And I am a halfling rogue that lots of information. Anyway, it's fun. It's just like a dungeon crawler one.
That's cool.
It's been good.
Cool.
Yeah. We're doing a bigger one, like I mentioned, where I'm a wood elf druid. And
words are hard.
Words are hard. I haven't played a spellcaster before, so that's gonna be exciting and just a joy to learn. And yeah, I'm excited. Where it's is it called the Underdark? Mm-hmm. So with the drow and stuff, we're doing that. Very exciting. Yeah,
the Underdark is a big thing in Faerun. We talk about it on the Dungeons and Dragons Lorecast. Yeah. Beat Saber is like playing a rhythm game with lightsabers. Well,
it's great.
Blocks fly at you to the rhythm of the music that you're listening to, and you chop them up with the lightsabers. It's really cool.
There's a free mobile game called Beat Sword or something. It's literally just
Beat
a
sword. Rhythm sword.
I see if I can find it on my phone. I have it. It kind of slaps, honestly. It's kind
of slaps. Whatever that means.
Beat Blade. It smacks, bro. So
it smacks.
You run down a path, and they have the set songs you can choose from. They have music from the Doom soundtrack that you can do in it, and you basically just move your little thing, and he cuts the blocks as I go through. Super easy little free. Well, not super easy, but free. Little rhythm game. It's fun if anyone's curious. Very good if you want to calm down a small child.
Oh, all right. So any parents out there, take note.
Any parents or babysitters or nannies
or small children
or cool aunts or confused cousins
or random strangers who happen to end up with children that they need to return to their parents and trying to keep them happy and occupied.
It's an essential role.
Could happen. Yeah, interesting. Well, what else do you have going on tonight? You gonna do any more streaming? You kind of done for the day?
Yeah. I didn't stream today, but I did play some Fallout earlier. And some Sims. I started playing The Sims again for the first time in like
a week.
A couple months. I go for like I go for like a couple months, like a quarter year break, and then I like
and then
play
you
it
just go
nonstop.
back in. You should talk to Crystal in chat about the way he plays The Sims. It's
I think I have a little
unique.
bit. It's funny. I love it.
Very
I love everyone playing him. I built a vault in The Sims, and I have yet to do any experiments in it. But that's a stream idea for some time. I built it on stream, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I used to have a ton of mods and like custom content for my Sims game, and deleted all of it in one fell swoop, thinking that it'd be fun to just like start over and like clean game, whatever. I was wrong. Do not do that. It is so annoying. But if any of you that do play The Sims, I would recommend, if you do get into custom content and modding, to organize it while you put it in, because oh my god, it is just too much. I forgot that like I had mods for things like shortening the time it takes to like shower, or like
that's one of the things that
should be part of the base game.
That's one of the things that always drove me nuts about The Sims, is that everything takes like hours to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the time that it takes to do a task doesn't actually match very well with the time it takes to actually do it during the day, but it also doesn't match with the time it takes to do other things. Like if you're going to eat dinner, 30 minutes, like that should be it. But like a shower should be less time than eating dinner. Like, you know, like unless you're the kind of person who takes washing your hands just takes like a few, like you should just walk up to the thing and then leave. That should be wash hands, because everything happens faster in the game time moves faster in the game than it actually does. So like a shower should be like jump in, get wet, jump out, you know, like boom, real quick. But sleeping takes an actual, you know, however many hours you actually need to sleep. It's a big chunk of time. I wish
I had so many mods that fixed things like that, and like even just added totally other things. Fallout 4, that's not The Sims 4, is not as like open world as The Sims 3 was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have mods that help that. There's a really cool one that just got released recently. I can't think of the guy who made it, but it basically revamps an entire town into being like an open world Sims 3 type deal.
Mm-hmm.
It is so cool. Like, it's not just like, here's a random Sims town. It's like, here's a random Sims town, and all of the buildings are like purposeful and interesting and like well made, and there's unique characters and like all of it. It's so cool. So it's neat. But yeah, I had so many things that changed the gameplay that I forgot that I even had, that were things that like I downloaded, right? Because they're essential. And then I got rid of all of them. Yeah. And now the game is just so
sure you can go find them again. Like you could download the ones that you really need.
For sure.
Just takes time. Oh, and we lost Lainey. And she's coming back. You had the Sims but EA account deleted from your profile. Oh no, that's weird. Huh. That's odd. MASH lost it, and EA deleted it from the profile. That's weird.
That's so weird.
Oh, yeah. It's a mystery.
Anyway, Sims is fun. I mostly just make characters and build in it. I build things. I do it all with the intention every single time of like, I will play this character and it'll be interesting. Like, here's the interesting character and their interesting family and their interesting home, and like 5 more buildings around their home that I've built for this game, and then I'll never touch it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're writing a novel and you do all the world building, but then never write the novel.
Yeah. Huh.
For why?
Right. Well, sometimes the world building's the more fun part.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like people who spend
lying to myself and saying that I'm going to play it.
It's like people who spend 50 hours modding Skyrim and then play it for 10 minutes, and then they're like, that was cool.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing.
Pretty stars.
Oh man, these textures look great. Okay, I'm done. All right, guys. Well, I think it's time to head out, and thank you again for being here. You guys are awesome. Lainey, thanks for joining me once again. Have a good rest of your night.
I will.
And we'll see you guys
You
around.
have a good rest of your night.
I will. Thank you.
Bonka. I've been bonking people on my stream.
You know what I do in Skyrim is anybody who's a jerk, I doot their nose in Skyrim VR.
You do it?
Yeah, because you can like move your hands in the game, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just like, you're a big jerk. And I go, boop. And I just kind of boop their nose. They don't like it.
Nice.
They don't like it when I do that.
Oh, my God. Okay,
What?
remember when a bed fell on my head?
Yes.
Okay, so because I bonk people in my streams, and like when I play games and I'm doing something melee, I'm always like bonk, bonk, bonk. When I said in my Discord server to the people in my Discord server that I got attacked by a bed, they were like, "Oh, who would have thought that you'd be the one to get bonked?" It's like,
Who would have thought?
what goes around comes around, I guess. And I told you that we're calling it matricide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you didn't
It's a good
die.
word.
I mean, then it would be matricide. It's just
Attempted
matricide. It's just matrisalt.
Matricide.
Yeah.
It was
attempted matricide. Right.
by my noodle boy.
Right, but it was only a matrisalt.
Not my noodle boy. Oh, I'm gonna drop a noodle in here just for funsies.
Drop a noodle. Everybody
Did
drop
you
some
see
pizza.
that Did you see that I redid my emotes to make them prettier?
Mm-mm.
They look a little better.
Did they?
You can't really tell, they're so small in there, but the larger version of them is significantly nicer than the older ones.
That's good.
Which
Yeah, they're
is cool.
cute.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, and Fire is selling shirts with my design on them.
Ooh.
Very exciting. I don't know if you saw that. It's pretty cool. I wonder if I have
No,
access
I
to
didn't.
that.
Oh yeah, I heard
This
I
one.
heard you guys were doing something about it, but I don't think I saw it.
Here, this emote that I just sent in the chat, I designed, and
Cool, love her.
she's selling
Nice.
shirts with it on it that you can
Cool.
buy. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I kind of want to get one just because I did it, but I don't know if I'd actually wear it. I might sleep in it. You know?
Maybe she'll give you a discount. Maybe she would, since you were the designer. Did she pay for the design?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like a commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's cool.
That is cool.
It's fun. It's a little. I don't know if you can see. It's the Fallout font on there.
Yep.
That
Yep.
was the most
Yeah.
intensive part of it. It was not hard to make. But just, it's.
Nice.
I was very eager to do it, and I presented her with 5 different versions. I was like, I'm gonna freelance the heck out of you. I'm like, my whole life has been preparing me for this moment.
So there you go. If anybody needs Fallout art or any art, talk to Lainey. She'll hook you up.
Yeah, any simple graphic design.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, I think it would be cool if you designed me some. I mean, I've got all my slots are filled up now, but who knows? I could always get another one.
I just designed myself a new one. I need to add it in. It's a cat. It was like a zombie cat, but I remade it to look like it's scorched or like a ghoul. One or the other. I think it's just a ghoul. I don't think I went fiery with it, but it says roasted on the top in the Fallout font. I think it's cute. I'm gonna add that one in there. And then I have my other ones are all cat themed, right? I have Noodle and Sushi, and I have my little headstone.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, when I mouse over them, they get bigger. I have a plugin that makes the image larger.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's very,
someone else designed that
useful.
one for me.
Very useful because nobody loads images the correct size on web pages. They're always larger than they actually are. So if you read an article and they're like, here's a map of Appalachia for Fallout, and it's like this big on the screen, with that plugin, you mouse over it and all of a sudden it's full size, and you go, oh, now I can see it without having to click on it and open up another page. Yeah, just look. There's a few of them for Chrome. They're very useful.
Nice.
Yeah, well, cool stuff. Hey, something I want to chat with you about after we say goodbye to everybody. So hang on for just a minute. You gave me an idea, so we'll talk. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm gonna sneeze. I'm gonna try not to sneeze. I'm gonna hold my nose. Something in this room
I'll
makes
sneeze
me
for you.
sneeze.
Achoo!
Maybe it's just dusty.
Did I get rid of it?
No, it's not. I'm holding it in.
Memory I have a memory of being at your house years ago and coming down the stairs and needing to sneeze and you seeing me and you just going, ah, and my sneeze going away.
I vaguely remember that. That kind of resonates somewhere in the back of my brain.
A long time ago. Yeah. It was so funny.
I'm such a good dad. All right, everybody. We'll see you later. Thank you for hanging out. I'll see most of you guys tomorrow, and maybe Lainey will too. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Bye. See ya.